In this exercise, we explored what the word community means to us personally. We questioned what community can be now, here, and in the future through diagrams, photos, and observation. What is a community? There are virtually three parts. First, to form a community, there has to be people. Second, those people need to be interacting and living together in some way. Third, there must be some element of cohesion, either social or in support of a common goal. From a sociological perspective, community has been explored in three ways: place, territorial or place community where people have something in common, interest where people share a common characteristic other than place, and communion, which in its weakest form is a sense of attachment to a place, group, or idea, and its strongest form entails a profound meaning or encounter. Community is all about groups of interacting people living in proximity regardless of diversity and recognizing their interdependency. There are many factors that bring people together, and one of them is culture. Different rituals, traditions, and values bring people on one common ground, whether it is locality basis or on a national level. Communities are made up of so many different things, people, ideals, and beliefs. But the thing that makes communities important is the fact that despite all of these differences that are present, the people are unified by these differences. They take pride in the fact that they are different. But it is those differences that unify them and solidify their community. One place to gather within a community of people would be a neighborhood park. By bringing nature, exercise, and people together, the atmosphere becomes relaxed and peaceful. The setting is perfect for group gatherings, small one-on-one chats, and personal time. So what is the underlying factor that builds relationship from individuals to communities? To form a community, individuals are united by a common denominator, some basic principle that unifies each person. Whether it is as tragic as a natural disaster or as powerful as a dream, people of all walks of life are joined together through a web of layering communities. But what about communities of memory? Have you ever imagined yourself without your memories? You would have no identity. Memory is how we relate to people, places, and things that we carry around with us every day. For example, you may share a community of memory with a childhood friend or people that share a common fear. Memories are the building blocks of a successful relationship. An ideal example of moving from stranger to acquaintance to friend would be the American front porch. Passers-by and porch sitters easily interact in both spontaneous and prearranged ways, creating a relationship network and affording the opportunity for increased security, friendship formation, and the exchange of ideas. A social organism, whether on a front porch or within a memory, has a life of its own that goes beyond the lives of the residents in it. It's a system of systems where all the small components work to make the whole. Keeping our studies of community in mind, we studied the design site of Lexington and the larger Kentucky area. We also studied and researched specific design goals, such as promoting health and wellness, ways to improve their student retention rate, and bridging the campus to the community. Some of these ideas will be covered in the following slides. UK is currently ranked the 35th research-based university in the nation. These rankings are based on 16 indicators of academic excellence. In the next 14 years, UK will strive to improve the following and hopes to achieve the top 20. While not explicitly included in the top 20 goals of UK, it is important to recognize Lexington, Kentucky as a great example of unified community. This city is made up of many different students that flood the city every August as the new school year starts. UK is a community within itself, and our men's basketball team creates an overwhelming support. Beyond athletics, UK's campus is located downtown within walking distance to many different attractions. The campus community can easily walk or bike to the main downtown restaurants, galleries, and shops. This helps to get the community moving throughout the campus and surrounding areas. However, many chain grocery stores and restaurants are reached only by car. While UK may be conveniently located downtown, when you begin to analyze the health and wellness of its students, you actually find that the campus community leaves much to be desired. For example, there are 75 food deserts in Kentucky, 8 of which are in Fayette County and 5 that are directly adjacent to UK's campus. Many universities, in fear of food deserts and other poor health issues, have taken some initiative to implement some sort of green living program on campus. But implementing a program is not enough. New behaviors must be taught in order for any green initiative to be a success. Interaction is also critical to a successful college experience both socially and academically. In order to achieve this, all students must work to interact and learn from their peers and the more experienced through mentoring and reaching out to the community. Student-faculty communication and interaction between peers outside of class hours can be beneficial to both parties. There are a number of ways to feel connected, and it is important for people to feel connected within their community. Therefore, building a good support network with one's neighbors can be of great value. Here are 10 ways we can better create a sense of community. By improving our sense of community, we can improve the student retention rate as well. As designers, we can do this by designing flexible spaces, increase proximity, visibility, and variety. As a faculty member, there are 5 conditions that must be considered while dealing with the students in order to improve retention rate, which includes expectation and support. We also discovered that we must understand how personal space and territoriality affect the usage of a design environment. This diagram illustrates how users use typical furniture to interact with others in specific calculated ways. The diagram tells us that the designer should carefully consider the implications that personal space will have on particular activities. Next, we analyzed these specific activities through behavioral mapping. We considered what specific activities we wanted to occur in the built environment and were encouraged to think about our specific users. It is important to consider who the users are. Where do freshmen want to go after living in the dorms for their first year? How can we bring together the entire university as one community? Let us consider taking the aspect of a mixed-use urban development and fusing it with the campus living. Take living, learning, and playing and break down those activities that would make this fusion one that is successful. Student living communities need to focus on building community amongst incoming freshmen. For these freshmen to create their own community amongst their fellow peers, they must be given multiple instances in which they can interact, socialize, and learn through constant sharing. By allowing for these activities to dictate what behaviors could happen, students can begin to foster their own communities amongst their classmates. We must keep the alarming statistics of health and wellness in the Lexington community in mind when we consider future living environments. Analyses were conducted more specifically into the School of Interior Design studio cultures. As you can see, a majority of the students classified themselves as stressed out of shape, and not exercising as often as needed. When considering ideal users of a health-centered student living community, specific users create opportunity designed for specific activities. All intended uses of the space are centered around the idea of living a health-centered life through exercise, learning about nutrition, and providing on-site support to the users. In order for a sustainable living environment to be successful, 4 activities must be present. Create and critique education, orient towards the community, humans and human systems, and lastly, capacity building creativity. One way to bridge the campus of the community is through the holistic approach of mind, body, and soul. Finding a balance between these 3 elements will better connect UK to the Lexington community. These activities, such as service learning, meditation, and learning wellness, will encourage interaction between a diverse group of people and create a sense of belongingness. But when continuing to examine what college is all about, we categorize students' lives into 3 main categories that overlap to produce the successful college student. When students categorize their activities into these 3 categories, they can better understand how to get the most out of their college experience. Here we looked more closely at the idea of community behaviors within the front porch. A study was completed mapping the movement of people on and around a porch. The main factors affecting the types of interaction were the degree of visual connection and physical separation, the amount of familiarity between people, and the amount of time each person had to interact. In addition to the front porch community, we observed the idea of courtyard planning. Three main types of behavior were focused on: engaging, interacting, and exchanging. Based upon these behaviors, the main goal is to create a social hub that encourages interaction amongst different users such as students, faculty, and staff. Next, we each identified key behaviors that we felt were important to better the university as a whole. We observed these behaviors in environments that are outside the norm. These observations helped us to better understand how and why certain behaviors are supported in a physical environment. We did this through a series of diagrams and sketching. In analyzing spaces that house actions relating to a mixed-use urban and campus living scenario, health and well-being collaboration proved to be unsuccessful in a place such as the one shown. The small quarters of this space created little to no interaction between users. In actuality, this company wanted to promote nutritional collaboration and conversation in its stores. In this study, people's reactions to noise and voice levels in their surrounding environment were observed, as well as how people use body language to communicate in various size meeting areas. Looking more specifically at a healthy learning environment, three main ideas to focus on are healthy living, learning and studying, and exercising. When looking at how these three ideas can be implemented into an actual space, you have to consider the activities people would engage in. Looking at public versus private spaces and indoor versus outdoor, designing for this type of lifestyle becomes very interesting. This behavioral analysis was done at the Arboretum in Lexington, Kentucky, studying the behavioral response to a space that is less defined and how the users adapt and make their own boundaries. After analyzing, we determined there are 5 components needed in a successful living and learning space, some of which include learning spaces to accommodate multiple styles of learning, adequate attention paid to health and wellness, and adequate opportunities for socialization. In this next behavioral analysis, levels of energy were measured at Millennium Park in Chicago. There are 5 main attractions at Millennium Park, all of which are occupied by varying groups of people with varying interests. Levels of energy were monitored to explain how the physical environment, such as a grassy open field versus a quiet garden, can shape specific behaviors and levels of comfort. This behavioral analysis was conducted at Tin Roof, a local college hotspot. Studies have shown that conversation is open at the bar seating because all parties share the same eye level, and the linear seating allows conversation to be open to many. However, when seated at a booth, conversation was strictly inward with the exception of a waitress. This next analysis was exploring interaction at a local club. These diagrams show how both males and females interact with people and things in their environment. For example, it compares 2 ladies where they prefer standing and talking versus 2 guys who are sitting who are more concerned about their environment. In order to better understand how the exchange of ideas, information, and emotion occurs in a space and among people, a series of observations on body language, approach, and behavioral mapping was done in a hallway waiting area. The diagram illustrates the body language and system of movement particular to spontaneous group exchange.